This is a video walkthrough of the grade 11 RT practical paper. So this is a paper that was released in Exemplar for November 2020, and we're starting with question 1. So question 1 tends to be general programming skills, normally a lot of stuff that we get from grade 10. So let's have a look at some of the first questions. So the first question, we have a button that we get a patient code, and the patients will enter their first name and surname into an edit box, and that's one edit box for both of them, and they will choose a province based on a combo box. So we're going to have to work with a combo box, and they type in their year of birth in the format in the edit box for each year. So those are the inputs, and we need to write an error message to be displayed if the procedure must exit if the patient did not choose a province. In other words, it did not choose a province from the combo box. So we must do that. So let's do that first. If they did not choose that, we must go, hey, you didn't choose one. So let's go look at the example. Here we go. So there's a combo box. Now, just so that you're aware of a combo box has items. They're the items. You can, if I click on the items, you can see there's 2 items in them. But at the moment, you can see none of them are selected. That's based on the item index. So we want to look at the item index. If that item index is a -1, then that means they didn't select anything. If it's 0, then it's the first option. So when we click on this button, they want me to do, the first thing they want me to do is they'll say, if the combo box dot item index, if that equals to a -1, then they have not filled, they haven't chosen the item yet. And what do they want me to do? If they must say, please choose a province, and the procedure must exit. So that means it mustn't do anything else. Okay, so we're going to say show message. Why is it not typing? There we go, it's coming out. There we go, show message. Please enter a province, and that should probably be in single quotes. Mr. Long, not double quotes. Please enter a province, and then to stop this procedure, to stop anything else from happening, we're going to have an exit. You could have an else and then do the rest of the code, but this is quite a nice way just to stop the procedure. Boom, nothing else will happen. If this is true and it gets to that exit, it will stop whatever happens after. So when we get to this point over here, we know that it definitely didn't do that if statement. So you don't even need an else in this case if you've got to exit. So we've done that part. Great. Now every time that you get the patient code button is clicked, the number of patients for the selected province must be increased by 1. The total number of patients are displayed in the panels. There's a panel 1, so we need to do that. So we need to get the panel, the patient code. Now, I've got a funny feeling that there is are there global variables for these number of people in the number of patients? No, I don't see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a global variable that's going to store how many number of patients there are in the Eastern Cape and how many number of patients there are in the Western Cape, and they're going to be integers. Now, just so that you know, whenever you declare them globally, they are automatically set to 0. So we don't need to initialize them. They're automatically set to 0 there. Okay. And so we need to increase, when they click on this button, we need to look at which one they selected and increase that patient code. So we're going to come over here and say, okay, so if the combo box dot item index, not item index, if that equals to a 0, that means the first one was selected. So we're going to then increase what's the first one? Do we know what the first one is? We go to the items. The first one's Eastern Cape. So the first one is Eastern Cape. So if we do that, then let's increase the Eastern Cape. And if it's not, okay, then the only other option, if it's not -1 and it's not 0, the only other option is that it's actually the Western Cape one. So we can increase the Western Cape one. Okay, so we're going to do that. There we go. So we just double check. So every time we get a patient code, the number of patients for the selected province must be increased by 1, and it must be displayed in the panel, in those panels. So what I'm going to do here is, because I've changed INUM, I'm now going to put in that panel for the Eastern Cape, in its caption, we are going to put NumEC. But remember, this is an integer and caption is a string, so I'm just converting it from int to a string. And then we are literally going to do the exact same thing over here for the Western Cape, except we are putting it in the Western Cape panel and we're giving it the Western Cape's number. Okay, so there we go. So if they don't select something, we say, hey, you didn't select something. And if they did, we increase it, and then we show the values. There we go. So we're getting started, taking it step by step. So there we go. So there you can see, boom, boom, boom. As you do it, it increases bit by bit. So let's test to see if that actually works. So let's test it to see if it works. So there we go. Let's first select no province. Hey, you didn't select the province, and nothing happens. But if we select Eastern Cape and we go, hey, and we increase it, there we go. And we go Western Cape and we increase it, there we go. So that's because the variables are global, which means they keep their values as once the button is finished doing its thing. So there we go, that's great. Now we must get the patient code must be compiled and displayed in a message component displaying the following algorithm. Okay, so there's a patient code that we've got to develop. Every time we type it in, we must get the first character of the first name, the first character of the surname, and then we need the year of birth, and then the first character of the first four characters. Oh, there's a lot of information. So we need the inputs. We need the name, we need the year of the birth, and we need to get the province. I need those three values into some sort of variables. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make some variables here. We obviously need the name, the full name, and we need the province, and we need the year of their birth. I'm not going to convert it to an, are we working out their age? Did they say we must work out their age? Does it say they work out the age? No. Just like it's just the year. So we don't actually need to convert that to a number. So I'm going to keep year as a string because we're not doing any calculation on it. We're just extracting parts of it. So let's do that. So we're going to do that. So let's do the input over here quickly. So once we've done this part, we can go, okay, let's go. So we need to get EDT, so not EDT, the full name. We are going to get from EDT full name.text. Okay, and then the year, that's also easy. We can get from EDT year.text. Now the problem is the province. How do I get the province? Well, we can get the province by getting the combo box province.text as well. That actually works as well. If they've selected something, which we know they have, if they got into this point, then there will be, hopefully the province will be in there. So we can get that. So we've got the inputs. Now we need to compile this patient code. So the patient code is compiled as the first character of the first name. So they're going to put their first name first, because it's first name. So we're going to say, okay, so I'm going to make this S code. S code. What are we going to do? So S code is going to start off. S code is going to start off being whatever is in the full name, but the first character. So how do I get the first character? Square bracket 1. That's how you get the first character. Then we need the first character of their surname. Okay, so their surname will obviously be after the space, I would assume. So we need to get rid of everything that's up until the space. So what we're going to do is we got the first name we got the first letter of their first name. So then we're going to delete from the full name. We're going to delete from position 1 up until the position of the space in S full. So find that space and delete from 1 until that space. So we will just be left at this point. S full will just be the surname. So then we're going to take the code. Now we don't want to get rid of what's in S code. We want to keep it. So I'm going to take whatever's in S code and add S full 1 again. Now you say, why are we adding a 1? Because we deleted the first bit. So whatever's left will be the surname. So now we're getting the first letter of the surname because we deleted everything up until the space. So that will be the first letter of the surname. It must be joined by the third and fourth characters of the year. It's a good thing we left that as a year. So I could actually just add on here. Let's make it easier. Copy from S here, starting the third and fourth. So starting in position 3, the third and fourth. How many characters? 2 characters. We want to add 2 characters to it. There we go. That's going to be done quite quickly. Followed by a random number from 1,000 to 60,000. But we can include one of those. So I can actually add a random number here. So plus a random number. I'm going to put it on the new line here. So plus random range. Now random range doesn't give me a red line, and that tells me that they've added math at the top. There they did. So just remember, if you want to use random range and it doesn't work because there's a red line under it, use math. So we remember how random range works. Random range is whatever the lower bound is. So look here, if you look here, we need the from to. And what it is it's from 1000, and it goes until that number, but it won't include that number. So if you want to include that number, you must always add 1 onto that number. So it's up until 60,000, no, 60,001. So it won't include 60,001, but it'll go 1 before that. But this, by the way, is an integer, and this is a string. So if we're going to add it onto this code, we need to convert it from an int to a string. And that should give us our code. So we got the first letter of the first name, then we deleted the first name and got the first letter of the surname, then the year, and then the random number. Is that what they wanted? So it was born, there we go, and output must be your patient code is this. So we need to display this. Show message. Your patient code is, and then we're just going to add S code to the end. I don't need to convert it because it's already a string. Fantastic. And then, is that it? 26 marks. A lot of marks, so it makes sense. There's a lot of stuff to do. Let's run it and see what it does. So we're going to select a patient, or select escape, and you see V and M to the select patient code. So 1 from the escape, VM01, yes, with some sort of random. And now if I type in Mr. Long, and let's pretend I'm from the Western Cape, and I was born obviously in 2005, probably, yeah, that sounds right. Patient code, boom, then it's ML05, and then some sort of random code. There we go. So I think that is legit. It looks like it is spot on. And 26 marks, there's a lot of marks, but by breaking it down into just little bits, we were able to do it. Let's have a look at the second button. It is 1.2, and the user will enter in a sentence, and we must encrypt it based on, and display it in the label. Okay, so we want to encrypt something. The input for the is done through that EDT input, and we must display the answer in LBL display, our cipher. And this is what they say. This is how we encrypt it. Any space is represented by a 1. Any character is represented by a number from 2 to 27. So A will be a 2, B will be a 3, blah, 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 and so on. All symbols and numbers in the original sentence are represented by a 0. So anything that's not a space or a number will be a 0. And a star must be added to the beginning and the end of the encrypted string. And every number of the encrypted string must be separated by a star. So let's take this example. Do RT. So do would be a 5. So we have a star at the front, star at the end. So star, there's the 5 for the do, the D. Then there's a star, then 16 is the O. So it doesn't matter if it's capitals or not. So we must make it all capital letters, probably just to make our life easier. Then star or 1. Why 1? Because 1 is a space, followed by 10 for I and 21 for T, and then the star again. In this case, there you can see there's 2, there's a space, then a 2 and a hash, and those were zeros over there. Okay, so there we go. So that tells me what to do. Now, if I go to the program, it's on the second tab. You just click on the tab. There it is. I don't know where the label is, but there is obviously a label here somewhere that we can click on. I'm going to go to the tab sheet there. Where's the label? Okay, so that's the input, and the label is, okay, there's a label over there. Now, you see there's nothing in the input. To save me time, this is a little trick as well. To save me time, I'm actually going to put stuff into that edit box from the beginning, so I don't have to waste time in an exam typing it out every single time I'm testing it. So I'm just make sure that you give it some sort of default that you want to test, so you don't have to keep typing it every single time. Save some time. So double click on the button. So first of all, we're going to get our value from that input. So I'm going to get S input of type string, and we're going to get it from the input box. So if you can't do stuff, make sure you get the marks of the stuff you can do. You can get the inputs, you can do the outputs, get the marks. Okay, so we got the input, so we know that it's going to be whatever that text is, do RT, do blah 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 fish space. Okay, so now we need to do a cipher. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking about. I'm trying to think about how are we going to do this. Okay, so I'm going to have to construct a new string, a S new string. So I'm going to make an S new, and this is going to be my cipher. And I'm going to start. Remember, everyone starts off with a star. So I'm going to initialize it to a star. That's great. Now I'm going to make my code. I'm going to make my code here. So what I'm going to do is the font. Let's think about this. S code. I want all the letters. I actually want this to be in uppercase. Remember, because we want to, they don't differentiate between small letters and big letters. So when I get the input, I'm actually going to make it uppercase, just to make sure that we don't have to worry about small letters and big letters the moment we get to it. Now, I'm going to go like this. I know that my alphabet is A, B, C, D, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. I think that's right. If I've made a mistake in my alphabet, then please, I apologize. So there's the alphabet. Amazing when you try to do the alphabet, you always sing it. Okay, so we want A to be a 2. Okay, and we want B to be a 3. But at the moment, do you notice this is a position 1, this is a position 2. Okay, so that's a position 1, that's position 2. Okay, so that's, we wanted to shift up 1 somehow. But we also need to cater for, the space. The space is 1. The space is represented by a 1. So what happens if we do this? What happens if I put a space here right in the front? If I do that, now look, watch it. Do you agree here that the space here, it's at a position 1 in the string, and the A is at position 2. So all of them are at the correct position now. I'm trying to get the string, this code string. So whatever its position is going to be what its code is. So the space is a 1. So we put a space in the front, because that's, if we find a space, it's at position 1 in here. But if we find an E, it's at position, or D for do IT, it's at position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is what we want that to be. Okay, so that's working a bit for me. If you didn't do the space, then you could have found the position and then just plus 1 onto it. You could have done that as well. That would have worked as well. So this is probably a slightly better way. And so we are going to go from 1 until the length of this string, this S input, because we're going through each and every character. The moment you're doing that, you are traversing a string, which means you need an R type integer. Okay, and so what are we doing? We want to find the position. We want to find the position of S input R. So position 1 and then position 2. So this is how when you're going through each and every character of a string, you're always going from 1 to the length of that string, and you are dealing with the string at position R every single time. I'm dealing with each character. So you just assume that is every individual character. We're each going to work with one character, and the loop will do it for all of them from 1 to the end. So what am I going to do with each character? I want to find its position in the string. So I'm going to find its position. So I'm going to call it rpos. And so its position. Rpos is going to be the position of this letter in S code. So if it's a D, it's going to be position 5. If it's a space, it'll be position 1. If it's a B, it'll be position 3. So it's going to give me the exact number of what I want it to be. If you didn't have the space, then you could have found the position and you could have just plus 1 to that answer to get it to the right spot. You could have also done that. So rpos is the number that we want for the D. So we want to say, okay, snew is equal to whatever's in snew, because it's got a little star now, and then we're going to add rpos, that 5 to it. And then remember they're separated by a star, so then I'll add a star. But there's a problem here because rpos is an integer, and this is a string. So we must convert this from an int to a string. And there we go, and that it will construct. Now the only problem I have is the other stuff that's not a space. So it must be a 0. So let's test if it works with what we've got. If it was a hash, what is the position of a hash over here? Well, the position of the hash is there is a 0. So it actually works. I actually don't need to do anything. I was thinking I might have to have an if step in here. If the position is not greater than 0, then just add a 0. But I don't need to, because the position of a hash in the string is already 0. So it's going to add on that 0 anyway. Does that make sense? So the position of the hash here is 0. It'll add on a 0. The position of 2 in here is a 0. It'll add on a 0. So it'll do it bit by bit. So let's go and display in the LBL display.text is equal to snew. So just recap, we initialized snew. We went from 1 to the length of the input, and we looked at each letter of input, and we checked for its position in my cipher. There we go. Check where it is. It's at that position, so we want to get that value. Okay, and then we go like, if I had like wanted to convert it to another string value, then I would have had another code, and then I'll find its positioning there and find the corresponding value somewhere else. But I've got videos on that. But this one's just finding a number replacement for each letter. What are the errors here? snew.text. It's not a text. That's a label. So it has a caption. So let's run it. I'm so used to typing text in. Okay, so let's go. Do it. Is that what is that the right? Please tell me that's the right answer. 5, 16, 1, 10, 21. Fantastic. And if I take those other two away, and yep, and the start, the end, it works out perfectly. We don't have to worry about the start, the end, because it's always adding the start, the end of each letter, and we started with it. So there we go. Yeah, that was quick. Worked out easier than we thought. It was quite challenging. Worked out easier than we thought. Okay, so let's move to the last one quickly. There's a RGB picture on click event. On our same thing. If the user clicks on the radio button for no background, then the picture must be set to invisible. IMG display must be set to invisible. Okay, so let's start with that. So there we go. There's the RGB picture. And if the first item is selected, if the radio group picture dot item index, if that equals to a 0, that means the first one is selected. Then what do we want to do? Then the image display dot visible, not comma visible. Dot visible must be set to false. Else, now this would only be if the other option is available. This is if option 2 is selected. If they select option 2, what do they want me to do? If the user selects, then the picture named SA flag must be displayed, and the picture must be set to we must set it back to true, because if they select no picture and we go back to option 2, it will still be false. So we need to first of all go that image display. We're going to put you back to true now, because we do want to see you now. But before then, we're going to say image display. I've got to add this picture. SA flag must be displayed. So we're going to, how do I display a picture? It's dot picture dot load from file, and then in brackets we're going to put the name of the picture. As long as that picture, that full name, is actually in the same files as your Delphi files, it'll work. If you're not too sure of the properties of an image, you can always click on the image and go, hey, what are these properties? Is there something here that can help me? Oh, there's a picture, and then you could have gone from there to hopefully work it out. So that was quite simple, if that is what all that we had to do. So that no picture and picture. No picture, picture. There we go. So it's a different picture. It's not a WhatsApp picture. Was that the whole question? Example output. Nope, not that. Yes, that was it. Okay, 46 marks. It was a lot of marks for a test out of or exam out of 150. That's close to a third. So that's question 1 done. Well done, everyone. We've done the question 1. We're now going to move on to question 2. Please subscribe. Even if you don't want to get notifications and bombarded with them, just unclick the notifications part. But subscribe, please. Support the channel. And remember, don't do RT the long way. Do RT the Mr. Long way.